I was in a mind when I crafted this. The dungeon master's wrath with a dash of sick. I dash like Sonic Mad, not a pacifist, but pacifist. The tracks when I'm rapping, kids. We the last of us. The master race, take him with a master hand. It's cancerous. I hit him with the master sword, and sure I make an eyesore, but I wonder how 4 guys make a Triforce.
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. You're listening to episode number 148. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I'm back and hosting this podcast once again for all of you lovely people out there. I know you guys missed me when I was here on episode 147, so why wouldn't you be excited for me to be on again?
Yeah.
Because you're an asshole, that's why.
I am a pretty big asshole.
That was... You've done better.
Well, I don't try to do better than previous episodes. I just try to get into the bulk of it so we can start talking about League of Legends, because that's all everyone cares about.
I'm just saying, you've done better jobs getting into the bulk of it.
I mean, and you've done better jobs standing there and looking good, so...
That's true. I've done worse jobs, though.
You have.
The best I can come up with.
I look really good today. I don't know what your problem is.
Besides all the blue.
You know what? I'm wearing blue. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, you're wearing blue. Look at you.
Damn it! Well, never mind. My jokes.
The most
and
modest podcast out there.
Yeah.
I'm mentally exhausted, so most of my quips and everything else are going to be pretty awful tonight, much like always. And I am drinking PBR, because it was left at my house, and this is all I have left until Friday.
There's no shame
Go
in drinking
PBR.
PBR. What's your problem? Hater?
It's not good.
It's not
It's
good.
not bad.
It's
No.
not good.
Not good.
It's not bad.
It is awful.
It's not
You're right,
awful.
it's not bad, it's awful.
It's not awful. You can do so much worse than PBR.
What you're drinking?
No, I'm drinking 8-bit pale ale.
Oh, okay, you're drinking good beer.
You don't get to shoot me down tonight.
I try to all day, and this is what I come into. So, guys, quick podcast news around. Don't forget to go check out our brother and sister podcast. I don't know which is what. We're going to call the LCS Rundown our sister podcast. OzLOL at ozlol.trinityforcepodcast.com. They are our Aussie brethren, and they are doing a fantastic job over there covering the Aussie scene. Carrot Colossus is tweeting quite a bit about the Aussie pros and you know who is still there, who's moving, you know, what the teams are doing. Actually, I listened to the podcast last week while driving to Michigan, and I learned quite a bit about the Aussie scene that I had no idea was going on. So it's like their own little ecosystem right now. So definitely go listen to that and keep up to speed with the OzLOL guys. Great group.
There's not much else like it. It's Aboriginal, that's for sure. And
Oh, geez.
you know, you can really
it is out of this world.
it is. It's good.
So we brought a 4th member onto the T-Force LCS Rundown. His name is Mitchell. He will be taking on that, again, the 4th spot and filling in that 4th piece of the Triforce, that 3 gold recipe cost, as in Trinity Force fashion.
Well said. I like it.
Log
Okay.
Blake.
Was he on last night?
There it is! Yes.
You got 2 of them. What do you want from me?
Yes, Mitchell was on last night. Mitchell had his debut. So, congratulations, Mitchell, on being the 4th member of the T-Force LCS
aboard.
Rundown. If you guys still want to help us out or help out the community and you're really looking in there, unfortunately, Trinity Force Podcast does not have any more openings. However, Victorious Gaming, you guys heard that episode 147, we brought Greg on. They are looking for quite a number of people, shoutcasters, people who can stream, people who can write articles, whatever it may be. And for those of you who wanted more information on the Victorious stuff, go to victoriousgaming.com so that you guys know on April 17th, we are working on a new style of battle arena to come out on April 17th, which you will actually be able to win RP and a Victorious Arise skin. There will be a sign-up sheet in the next couple weeks that'll come out. You guys will be able to sign up for that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Battle Arena is going to be more or less taken over by them. We're trying to figure out the specifics right now for it, but do know that we have a special Battle Arena coming up on April 17th with those guys. So again, victoriousgaming.com.
Last week's Battle Arena with Asdorition and Honey Badger, that was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed their banter and watching Wrecker destroy Adam.
Oh, please.
On his 3 Athenes 0 build.
I think they're planning on doing that again this Thursday, too, just for fun. So.
Oh, nice.
I mean, if they want to take it over and they want to run it, more power to them.
That's what I was saying. So, yeah, if, fans taking things in their own hands, that's always awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We actually have some fan feedback about the Victorious Gaming Tournament.
If you have it up, go ahead and...
I do. Rich wrote in. He completed his first and certainly not last Victorious Gaming Tournament. And he had a blast. His teammates were amazing, got along great, jokes were thrown around, all that type of stuff. They have a TeamSpeak server set up, so you don't need to go to other places to report matches or anything else, look for ringers, that type of thing. He says the staff is very friendly, and he pretty much recommends this to anyone who's interested in playing tournaments that are not high pressure. So that's pretty much everything I like to hear about tournament structure.
Definitely.
Like
Seriously.
we're discussing here.
Yeah, so guys, the great guys out there. I'm glad we were able to bring them in and start working out with them. So, and do be on the lookout because I'm going to cast a tournament like on one of their tournaments. They do the daily tournaments and they cast them 3 days a week, and I'm going to be jumping in there and helping those guys out once. So follow.
You gonna
follow
do
us
it
on
like
Twitter.
you did the GG Classic?
Which one?
How'd you do the GG Classic?
Wasted. That's how he did the GG Classic.
That was the first GG Classic. The first GG Classic, I was. Oh my god, I was so wasted.
How
by the end
wasted
of it.
were you?
I don't remember what team Dyrus was on in Dandenrod, but I
Was
called
that-
him on the wrong team in the
Wasn't
interview.
that like the same weekend that bitch hit me in the car?
I don't know.
Because
Were
you were like
you,
rushing off to do that.
Probably.
I think is what happened. Weird shit.
Were you dropping Jaeger and Keystone? Wasted?
No, I was drinking vodka tonics that night.
Oh, all right. I'm okay with that.
And then we did an impromptu Trinity Force podcast, and Hornet actually yelled at me the next day. He's like, "You should never fucking do the interviews drunk like that again." You know, it just kept going on and on at me. And I was like,
A non-show pedestal rant?
yeah, I was like, oops. I mean, you're not wrong, but that's like a Chira thing. Well, you're not wrong.
Well, you're not wrong.
But you're not good either.
Yeah, every time. Other than that, guys, we are going to PAX. One last piece of news. Actually, I have 2 more pieces of news. We are going to PAX here. And if you want to go find Mott Nagorum or Moobeat while you're there, we have 100 Trinity Force podcast buttons to give away. We have a heap full of shirts and RP to give away, but you have to go find Mott to get the shirts. You have to go find Mott or Moobeat to get the buttons while you are there. We definitely want to give those away to you. They say Trinity Force podcast on them. You can go find them at my Twitter at GGCPone. You'll go see the picture. It's out there. It's the latest one I did tweet. And I think it's the first 5 people that find host Tom, and then if you're wearing a T-Force Podcast t-shirt, you get $10 free in RP. So you guys go find the link for the t-shirts on our website and all that good stuff. Other than that, I think that concludes news for this week, and we can jump into talking about League of Legends, which we haven't gotten to talk about yet.
Let's do it. I like that game. It's kind of cool.
So there has, for a while now, the Riot has been, talking to us about a Rune remake and have been really hinting at it, and they really want to do something about, like, for example, armor seals, because just about everybody in this game is running armor seals right now. And when you have one slot that's so dominated by a particular rune, you know, there could be a problem with that rune because it's too valuable for your money. And so Riot had really started looking into these runes, and they said they pushed a change live where they looked at seals, glyphs, and quintessences.
There you go. You got there.
Close. Quintessences.
Quintessences, yeah. I had to
You got it on the last
Got
try.
it.
They're quintessential essences.
Thank you, pal.
There you
gotcha.
go.
Like you
It's a
also
good way to
stripped
know.
your way through it.
Yeah. I've been drinking.
I mean,
It's bad.
Good.
Would this podcast really be anything different?
Welcome to the club.
All right. Yeah. What? What? What'd you
We
say?
haven't had these runes come out yet. So
Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin it.
That's great.
God
That's
damn
very
it!
fun.
You did all that.
All right. Let's move on.
I
So
don't know
yeah,
if I
armor
can.
seals.
Yeah, let's talk armor seals. Right now, per seal, armor seals give 1.41 armor. Per 9 seals, that is 12.69 armor. They are looking at reducing that down to 1 armor per seal, and then 9 armor total for 9 seals. But to supplement that, all champions will gain +4 base armor. So if you are running the armor seals, you'll have the same amount of armor that you would have started with anyway, but you'll have, higher base stats. And then scaling armor, though, they're making up for that. They are actually buffing those from going from 2.7 armor at level 18 to 3.0 armor at level 18. Per 9 seals, that's 24.3 armor at level 18. And that's going to be buffed to 27 armor at level 18. So let's talk seals here first. Actually, we should go in there. Health and scaling health are also getting buffed. Actually, flat health is getting quite a big buff per seal, from 5.35 to 8.0 health per seal, which ends up being 72 health at level 18, or flat.
I think the big thing to note is that across the board, they are making the scaling options just like much better as the game goes on. Every single scaling option breaks even with its flat, counterpart at level 6. And it's
really?
it's very clear how everything lines up with that. And that
Wasn't that like that before? Wasn't it level like
No,
6
it was
to 8?
No, it was like usually between
14?
8 and 11, and it
Okay.
depended on the rune. It wasn't consistent.
Sure.
Like you pretty much had to sit down, do the math to figure out where it broke even, and then decide whether or not you wanted to go that route. And now it's just very clear cut how everything lines up, and it's much more player friendly in that regard.
Right. I was looking at some of these, and for example, Shen has been somebody that I had talked about who's had a fairly, you can change his runes based on who you're going against. You don't have to run armor seals. For a long time, I ran scaling health in his yellow slots, and I also ran flat health in his quintessence slots. And now looking at these, if you're maxing W, somebody like Shen can actually have a lot more armor at the end of the game because he won't need it while he's in lane. Or you can run like a half and half type thing where you can, if you need that little extra armor. Like I think right now, when people are going to go through this, and what I need to sit down and do is look at how much damage someone, let's say the Renekton, is doing. How much are you shredding off of me? How much damage are you doing early?
Yeah,
and
do the
where is
math.
that break even point where I can run 3 seals of armor seals and be good with that +4?
Does it matter to have that little bit extra in the late game, or do you want that extra in the early game where you really kind of need it?
Right.
Right now, that's where it is. You need it in the early game, so flat
Yeah,
armor is
unfortunately.
where it's at.
See, I look at this and I just keep thinking for players who are not heavily invested in runes, like you have, only a couple pages, and you really just want to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. To me, it just seems like health or scaling health are the way to go now, because that way it's going to work in either matchup. It's not ideal in every matchup, but it's going to work for you regardless of who you face, and you don't have to worry about it in that regard.
Well, yeah, it's the when in doubt, build health
Yeah.
when you're going for defense. So.
I have a hard time recommending buying health over armor. Not while we're in the game buying items, but runes specifically, as we're talking about. I have a hard time recommending people not buying the armor seals even after this nerf, because you still go into lane with that 13 armor now. When the seals change, because you get that +4 base armor, and that's quite a bit of armor to start with. That takes people from their base 20 armor up to 34 or whatever.
You can't
Yeah,
really look at it like that anymore, because now every single champion gets that +4 base.
Sure.
You're going in with 9 more, but you're if you run the seals and everything, and that's fine, but you're not getting +13. They only have if they run armor and you don't, they only have 9 more armor than you.
And you know what?
But
If
you
you
can't
look at
look
the
at
health,
as the +13 anymore.
if you look at flat health, it gives you 72. It used to be. It's right now. It's 48.15. They're looking to put it up to 72 health, starting at level 1. That's 100% damage reduction on 1 auto attack.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think it's pretty good.
This really with the armor and the health, it opens up to be more matchup dependent than it was before, like you guys are talking about, because as Claude said, 72 health could be 1 auto attack, but if you're going against somebody like Olaf, who's going to start getting more auto attacks off, or if you're going against someone like Olaf, you might want to run that health, because his true damage it's true damage, it's health damage, so you build health
Right.
to go into
Armor doesn't do
Olaf.
anything.
So what's the point of really building armor against him? Yes, it helps with those auto attacks, but most of his early trades are going to come from an E with 1 auto attack afterwards. And that 72 health might be the difference between you winning or losing a trade. But when it comes down to how you have to look at the game overall, it's not just the individual lane matchup either. It's also what that jungler is going to do. And I don't think this does change mid quite a bit. But at the same time, it keeps it where it's at, because you have to look at what the jungler... Listen to me here. You have to look at what the jungler is going to come and do, because now it's 2 people coming at you in a lane. Because a lot of time, mid is the
it was
focus.
the way you phrased it was like, wait, what are you even trying to say with that?
I know. That's why I said, give me a minute. Let me get there. When you laughed. You got to give me a minute. Sometimes it takes me a moment to get
He
around
didn't
to
even
my
laugh. He just
Made a face.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, Dom's got the Dom face and the Dom blink, because it's always the, wait,
I
what
got
did you say?
Yeah,
There
it
it
was
is.
his what the fuck face.
But what I'm saying with armor and stuff is, if you know you're going to be, the focus of attention, it'll probably do you better to start running that armor, because I think you're going to, if you did the math, you'll probably end up reducing more damage off 2 people coming at you if you had that extra 9 armor, especially if somebody out of the jungle is like a Vi or a Pantheon or Wukong or whatever it may be, because Wukong's getting armor reduction nerfs here around this time of this patch too.
armor pen reduction.
Right. Well, and it's passive, but not where I was.
Are they
going
nerfing
for.
that?
Yeah.
They were planning on it, yeah.
Good. He's strong.
Right.
He real good.
Real good. Now, I'm curious with this, with scaling health and health regeneration, since somebody like Irelia in the top lane is already running health regen quintessences, if she will not start running health regen seals instead, or like a mixture of flat health and health regeneration seals overall.
Yeah, I just think some of the other armor has been so long the de facto option in pretty much every lane, and I start to wonder if the other choices become more compelling for it. I mean, 216 health at level 18 if you're running 9 scaling health quints, that's a shit ton of health. You gotta survive the early game. I mean, you gotta survive the first 6 levels and then you break even, but that's a lot of health. And then, those health regen seals and everything, those do look a lot better. They're a lot more compelling, and frankly, undo a lot of the recent nerfs and stuff we've had to, like, Doran's shield.
Correct. Yes and no. Yes, because you're definitely getting all that health regen back. I mean, 5 health regen every 5 seconds per 9 seals is quite a bit. That's a lot of health regen every 5 seconds to gain back. And that definitely does redo it, change it. But when you don't have that extra armor, that extra 9 armor, when you're in a lane that somebody's poking you pretty hard, like a Renekton or a Shyvana or something, it might the health regen might not be worth it. Because I don't see, that's why I'm trying to think of like a Mundo. Because Mundo, he was the person, he would run Doran's shield, he ran Perseverance and whatever else it may be out of the defensive tree, and he was all about regenning out of the top lane.
Truthfully, I won't be surprised if people end up going a lot of mixed runes now instead of just flat pages across the board, because you can really just the way they're balancing everything out to me seems like players should they really want to encourage players to
have a choice.
Yeah, tailor their like play experience to what works best for them. You know, if you know
which is the best.
If you know you have certain elements and you can either offset some of those habits or enable some of those through runes, you're now in position to do that, and succeed in the early game. Whereas before, you were crazy to run anything but armor
other than armor seals
in the majority of situations.
Yeah, and I think Ezreal has a lot to do with these changes, because as an archaeologist, his career is in runes. So,
oh my god.
You look like you just pooped yourself, Adam.
God, that hurts. I saw the tweet earlier from some guy who was like, I'm going to watch if he makes sure you do lots of punts tonight. And the Claude's like, I'll see what I can do. Motherfucker, do not enable him.
That explains it.
You're just ruining this segment.
I was just
right,
man, you are working really hard for these tonight.
You know what? Mark my words, my lips are sealed, all right, for rune jokes.
Yeah, I was like, keep it going. Wait, is this gonna be like a rune where as we go on in the podcast it's gonna ramp up? Because it didn't break even. We're about 20 minutes, so they should have broke even with what you're at normally. And we're gonna
we're ahead of schedule, so front loading, we're good.
All right, let's talk about quintessences and glyphs then.
Sounds good.
Who wants
we hit health regen.
There is a shocking amount of cooldown reduction available now from glyphs and quints.
Just after you got done bitching about how much cooldown reduction is in the game.
So I do think there's a lot of CDR in the game, but it's kind of loaded onto a very small section of items. And as I thought about it, that's really what my problem was. The way cooldown reduction is distributed, you're really just locked into a very few specific cases of items because they're always going to be better than their counterparts. Adding more cooldown reduction to the game, it accomplishes the same thing that I was hoping Riot would do, just in the other way. It still opens up build paths and allows more options for players and everything, because now there's just more CDR available in general.
Problem is, a lot of the items are they're tempting to buy, not just because of the CDR. You want them for the other stats too, so you're going to find yourself topping off a little bit too quick.
See, my problem has always been that Athene's Unholy Grail is better in 95% of all situations, just because it has all of the stats that you're looking for. Rod of Ages might have more effective health and more ability power, or Morellonomicon might have more ability power on it, but and some mana regen and everything. But at the end of the day, Athene's just gave you too well-rounded a set of stats to look at, or gives you too well-rounded a set of stats to look at anything else.
Sure. Well, I think they've started to go on the right path though with this cooldown reduction, and that Spirit Visage is no longer your go-to AP item. However, Banshee's Veil seems to be, it's pretty much the go-to AP defensive item at this point because of the passive and the sense of the cooldown reduction nerfed on Spirit Visage. I know on Leona, I was picking up Spirit Visage because it had the 20%, and then they nerfed it down to 10. Therefore, it no longer became as appealing as it was before. So,
do you remember, like, not long after they nerfed Spirit Visage, you and I were talking, I was just like, yeah, don't you think Banshee's Veil is a lot more interesting right now? And nobody was buying it at the time, but we were both like, yeah, what's the deal? That item's looking pretty good.
Yeah, the item's still there. It doesn't build out of catalyst anymore.
Yeah, it's just like,
that's not stupid to build.
There's nothing awkward about this item anymore. We should, maybe get that item a little bit more.
I like it on Sejuani. I really do.
I mean, I like it at any tank, really, at this
Yeah,
point.
Yeah, any good
Blocking a
initiator.
spell.
I usually choose Spirit Visage over it for my champs, like Volibear. It helps his little passive substantially. But Banshee Veil, just too awesome. Too many
even on somebody, though,
have
like Olaf,
first.
I'm not going to run... Like Olaf, for example, you can run it on him because it's just one extra spell you can block before you have to pop Ragnarok to get into the fight. You're not using Ragnarok outside of the fight for the attack damage. Like, in lane, when you're playing Olaf... For those here's a quick tip for Olaf top: use Ragnarok to gain that quick boost in AD when you're in a fight, like in one-on-one in top lane. Popping Ragnarok gives you plus 40 AD at level 1.
It gives you basically a free BF sword.
Right. So when you're in lane and using it, pop it not to stop abilities, not only to, but also to gain that extra attack damage. But once you're out of lane as you're using Ragnarok to get into the fight and stay unsuccessful. And the longer that you can wait to pop that ability, the longer you're gonna be allowed to sit on that extra MR and armor that the passive gives you, because once you pop it, then MR and armor is removed. So like that ability right there, that's why I really like Banshee's Veil on Olaf, for example, or anybody that's kind of initiator. Leona is fantastic on because she can't be stopped. She can get off her Q auto attack reset right away and stop.
Good on Vel'Koz. Help you finish your ult.
It's good on most champions. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
we're kind of off topic here talking about
Katarina.
If you want to get back on topic, the nerfs to the lifesteal quints has me wondering if the runes are going to change for marksman players at this point.
A lot of marksman players haven't been running much lifesteal.
They haven't been doing that as much. I haven't really looked into marksman runes lately.
It's marksman's kind of flexible right now. Some marksmen like to run 15 flat AD with the scaling MR or flat MR, depending what they're going against, and of course armor. And then some like to run 4% lifesteal and then all flat AD, and of course whatever glyphs and seals you're going to run.
I mean, to get to that 4% lifesteal now, you have to run 3 quins, and that's a decent chunk of early damage you'd be sacrificing.
Right.
And I just kind of like, and especially because they're buffing that the feast mastery, I'm kind of thinking that lifesteal is gonna go the way of the buffalo.
For bottom lane, yeah. I
Yeah.
can see it. Yeah, I've been going away from lifesteal quite a bit. Even in the top lane, I was running it for a little while, but then health regen. So that's why I wonder with these health regen changes if maybe marksmen might not start running a little bit more health regen in their seals.
Honestly, I've been thinking about doing it. I don't have the runes right now, so I haven't been like screwing around with any of that. But
right
on support, I'm just kind of like, it'd be nice just to have all that extra life.
But the extra attack speed out of Quince is actually pretty nice, and I know somebody like Caitlyn could definitely use that extra attack speed on her. I want to say I run 4 or 5 flat attack speed glyphs on her to reach that 1.0.
You can solve a lot of that problem with just 1 quint there.
Right, and you can because she's got low attack speed early, but getting to that 1.0 attack speed on her changes her game quite a bit in lane. And now we might start seeing more Caitlyn's running 2 or 1 or 2 attack speed quints on the bottom lane instead, because you're very safe and you're never. How many Caitlyn's do you see die in lane?
And it helps you get your passive off quicker.
Yes, and that's another reason to continue to run it. So,
you think like Twitch players might?
Probably
from a harassment standpoint, it kind of makes sense. You're just going to get a lot more,
a
few more of those passive procs. We've only recently he showed up in LCS, and that's what even brought him to mind. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought of him because
when's
the last time you saw a Twitch player?
No, SKT lost to him. Ozone busted him out against SKT, and they wiped the floor with him. But
What about Varus?
Varus with attack speed?
Yeah. It's his abilities that build his...
His
proc-
Q
Yeah,
has a
but-
really nice scaling on the AD. And, I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it won't happen, because you can definitely supplement some of his, get those blight stacks more quickly with that attack speed. But his scaling, I want to say it's 0.6 to 0.8 on his Q.
I'll look it up quick.
Yeah, please look it up.
for just flat AD.
For flat AD, right?
I mean, yeah, it's +1 on Q actually.
Okay, there it is.
Um,
I knew it had a really good scale. So
And then Blighted Quiver, or not Blighted Quiver, Living Vengeance, his passive gives him a lot of just nice free attack speed. So
if you,
Gives
only
it
if you
free,
kill
yeah.
a minion,
Which synergizes with his W passive,
a minion or person.
Lighted Quiver. So
but still, it's not hard to kill a minion and engage at the same time. With
Especially
the way
if
that arrow works.
your Q damage is able to kill that minion at half health anyway.
And poke them down early and have it back
Exactly.
up before the fight ends. Was it Wiz Fusion? Is that who I was thinking of that played him this weekend?
Yeah,
Was it Coast?
played twice, won both games. He's played a lot of Varus though. Varus has been in North America. He's kind of been the Varus player this year, and then Genja's still playing him all the time in Europe. Does anybody else? I've not caught a lot of Europe lately, just because it's while I'm working, and so.
You know who we should be talking about right now is the new Kog'Maw. We didn't.
Yeah,
really-
you played that game as him. What did you think of that?
That game just solidified what I was thinking about before. And actually, earlier that morning, I had heard Monte Cristo talking about the new Kog'Maw and saying how good new Kog'Maw was. And I was like, yes, we are on the same page the entire time. Like, you keep preaching, brother. You keep preaching, brother. But new Kog'Maw is definitely a lot easier to play. And you know who's the best support right now to play with him? And Dom, you said this is Karma.
Yeah,
What's
see
absolutely
that.
we
100%
ran that lane, didn't we?
because there's a lot of poke from Karma early to keep Cog safe, plus the shield, of course, and the movement speed increase. But Kog'Maw's now that you're able to last hit, you have that additional last hit with Q. Like I was talking about a couple patches ago, we were talking about him. Like there comes to there's some silly points in Kog'Maw's play between his levels, between level 1 and 3, and then 4 and 5, or 4 and 5. I don't remember the exact levels now, but still. Where it's hard to get some last hits. Abilities go on cooldown really easily. You can't get up to last hit with Q, and Q's got a relatively short cooldown. But what makes him really nice now is you can gank for him earlier, because if you land Q, it's like a 20 or 25% armor shred at level 1.
Starts huge. I got him pulled up too. I'll quick check it.
I want to
for
say
you.
it goes up to 45 or 50% at max.
It starts at 20 and it gets to 28, but it starts at 20%.
Okay, it goes up to
That's a
28.
ton.
So you don't even have to. I mean, you're getting passive attack speed, so it's still a good one to level up if you want. But
You're gonna level it second no matter what.
yeah, you don't. I mean, it's great it's a great 1-point wonder at this point, and he certainly didn't have that before.
Right. Turning into a skill shot makes it easier to hit, because the things that Tristana needed to make herself good was increasing the range on E to allow her to get that extra ability off, because everything on Tristana, for example, scales with AP, and Cog kind of has that same thing going. Is the E scales off AP, is R scales off AP, W scales off AP, but has a % AD modifier, right?
No, it scales off AP, but it's a % max health modifier.
That's what it is. Okay.
And that's why AD Cog is the way to go. It's because you just get so much health shred from him.
Right.
And now with resistance shred, % resistance shred, he's just kind of crazy again.
Well, going back to my point, where when you have a character like that scales a bunch off AP, you need something to make up for that. You need to be able to allow, even hit those skills, because those AP skills are going to hit hard early. Tristana gaining the range on her E, Kog now gaining range on his Q and allowing to hit that and shred. Makes it fantastic for fights, because he can actually shred through a tank that is coming at him and gain his life back much more quickly than he could before. He can stand toe-to-toe with a tank at this point, once he shreds that armor.
That's scary.
That's really scary. You get a Karma Shield on him, and he can he shreds, 25% armor.
And
at
if he has
level 2.
barrier, yeah.
just stand there. Don't even worry about juking.
Yep.
There's no point to.
You'll need to.
When you
You're going to
broke
slow
that.
them down while they're coming at you anyway. They're going to take a lot of hits before they get to you.
Yeah, the one game I got to play on him, I sat with toe-to-toe with a Vi, and I gained more life back than she could take out of me because I was shredding so much of her armor and just doing so much damage over, the quick burst period of time. But I really think Cog, if played correctly, I don't think he's going to be a solo queue champion per se. Like if you're really good at Cog, you could totally be and you have a good support. But definitely team, we're probably going to end up seeing like Trinity force Cog come back with.
It's
Genji
back
and
to the
shit.
protect the Cog comps.
Right.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Gambit to break him out just because Cog's long been a favorite champion of Genja's.
It's because Genja likes to build funny, and he can build funny on Kog'Maw.
You can build funny on Kog'Maw.
Anything else about Kog'Maw or the runes before we move on?
We really got out there.
Yeah, but you know what? We related the runes to where they are. And just the cooldown reduction looks like they normalized the values. 5.01, 9.99, finishing out at 7.5, nice even number, and 15% total. So they just
Anytime
rounded it up,
I
evened it
still
out,
have
so.
a feeling that people are going to do the same shit though and figure out what min-max is best with the runes regardless, and certain
Do the
things are
math.
going to be way more popular than others.
Well, you're going to
it's
have
just-
to.
That's just how it goes.
Yep. And then there'll be a
that's
new
Dungeons and
go-to
Dragons
rune.
and math.
Yeah.
That's anything that has
Yep.
to deal with some kind of math to it. People are going to bring their, LOL math into it and start going nuts with equations and
It's like
scenarios.
the difference between running full AD or full armor pen way back in the day.
Oh, yeah. We definitely went over that.
Yeah. It's just
One crit rune. Still
one,
going to keep
one
it.
crit rune. Always keep the one crit rune.
I don't have my one crit rune anymore on my page.
You're fucking up.
You
My
son
flat AD page doesn't. It's not because I don't want it. It's because I forgot to put it in there, and it hasn't been in there in a long time.
Fix it.
I want to have that one crit rune on Renekton and kick that Cho'Gath's face in. I'm gonna crit his head off.
I'm sure
Sure you
that
are.
one crit rune's gonna make all the difference.
Oh, now you're going back on it. Okay, Sean.
No. I'm just saying.
Yep.
I don't think you're gonna
I'll
beat Cho
give you
anyway,
this
'cause-
since you brought it back. The Cho'Gath versus Renekton, it's very difficult for the Cho'Gath because you have to hit your Q in order to trade.
Right.
And Renekton can be a bully, but if you play Cho'Gath properly and you know how to play against a Renekton, you can dodge his Q pretty much every time. If he slices and dices to hit you with his Q, you hit him with a Rupture, and you're going to trade back more damage. When he's in your back rank of minion lines, you hit the Rupture, and then you hit him with an auto attack or two while he's slowed. So, there's a way to play it. I've seen it played very well. And then later on in the game, Renekton starts to fall off, and then, I don't know, I see Cho'Gath.
Shogot nukes somebody to hell.
Yeah.
I can just see Cho. Cool. Renekton goes to slice and dice, silence him while he's coming in, and then knock him up.
Yeah, silence, Rupture, trade, bam, and then
Yeah,
just keep.
and then
And
just
then every
walk
now
him.
and then you hit him with the tips of your Vorpal spikes, while you're sitting there last sitting. Make sure you position yourself properly, and then he's going to be like, "Oh
and
man,
that
I'll
20
get
then
damage
he'll
every
just-
time. It hurts.
then
It
he'll-
hurts.
I have
And
never
then
liked
I
playing
got to
Shogot.
keep back my health, so let me get in here so I hit the champion and get double the lifesteal back. Oh man, there's that Feral Scream Rupture again. Oh
The
god,
best
oh god.
part
So,
is
but it's
50
hard.
rage.
It's very-
A 50 rage Cold Meek is going to heal all of the Vorpal Blade damage.
Oh yeah, it'll heal everything.
That's the silly thing about that stupid champion.
He's won
Seriously.
the trick.
Whatever.
I could be at a quarter life in lane and I'd be scared. I'm going to go up and Cold Meek the entire wave and I'm back to full life. Like, that's a silly thing about Renekton. That's just the champion.
He's tough to play against.
Oh, you
but don't-
thought I was at a third health.
Yeah, right. And I get double life steal if I have 50 Cold Meek when I hit a champion too. That was funny because you had mentioned that, I'm Cho'Gath and I'm Renekton, and later in the game Cho'Gath starts to outscale Renekton, and it's true. We were playing a game on Sunday night, and I think Sean remembers this, where we accidentally tossed the game, and we were at a point where we can come back from this. And I said, Sean, I'm Renekton. We're 35 minutes in this game. We're not coming back from this.
Yeah. Renekton into Rise. That Rise was so big.
Yeah, no, we shit on that Rise. You and I shit on the Rise in the lane. And we did very well. We should have won that game, 2 inhibitors down and still lose. But it definitely shows the
They
Claude mentality
outscaled
of
the shit
never,
out of us, and we didn't close it out fast enough. That's all.
never surrender, never give up.
That a boy.
Yeah. I don't give up in ranked 5s too easily. But
So I think we should pit Miss Fortune against Renekton top lane for her healing reduction.
At Ignite.
Do it quick. She's getting retuned.
Oh, she is.
She's getting some work done.
yeah, we'll talk about her when
Yes,
she actually
what's going
hits.
She's gonna get her hair did.
Let's
Her
just
hair-
wait until
yeah.
everything's. Let's wait till everything's final.
Still gonna have those tiggle bitties.
I have a good screenshot somewhere of talking with a friend who was writing fan fiction between Gangplank and Misfortune, and she had Gangplank having sex with Misfortune, and I replied back, and I said, and I read her little thing, whatever, and I said, that's not how that worked. Gangplank would grab her, turn her around, throw over the thing, and go, I'm going to board you, or some shit. I don't know what the hell I said, and went in for it, like. I'm coming in, and
that escalated so quickly.
And she looked at me. She was just like,
Wow.
"Oh fuck!" I was like, "Well, that's Gangplank, motherfucker."
Well,
As he eats an orange, and then orange juice drips down onto her back.
oh my
And then he gets
Adam's
parlay.
officially the one that sickens me, not the Claude.
Yes.
Oh, that got so.
I could write
Thank you.
great League sex fan fiction.
Okay.
Where
I'm
did
gonna
that
go-
come from?
I'm gonna
Because
go
we were
with
talking about Misfortune and Gangplank. Yes,
Oh my
prepare to be
God.
boarded. That's exactly what it's going. Prepare to be boarded. I screwed it up. You would think Gangplank favorite champion.
And then he says something about a bunghole too, doesn't he? The perfect champion for this.
Oh my god.
Wait, are we not allowed to do fan fiction on this podcast? Snagglewolf, this was fun, but I have a strict no fanfic policy.
Got a little out of hand.
Damn it. Snagglemania is going to come in and drop the power bomb on us.
All right, let's talk some listener questions then, guys.
Yeah. Let's, please.
Hold on.
Oh man.
Want me
You know
to do
you're
it?
gonna get you're gonna get a bunch of private messages with people
Sure.
asking you to write this shit.
Hey,
down.
can I have that fan fiction? Hey, I know this might be weird, but can I have that? All right, Professor.
Throw it up on WordPress.
I'm gonna make a WordPress blog.
Just like a one word, or like a one post Tumblr or something, and that's all that's on there.
It's just my Gangplank Misfortune
Just the
fan
gang,
fiction.
yeah.
It's going to be entitled Prepare to be Boarded. Professor Moot writes in, with gold granting support items, I found more and more solo queue players insta-locking less conventional supports. Champs whose power scales with gold income instead of levels, like top laners with stuns. Is there early game weaknesses worth it? Okay. That's the way he worded this. Are there early game weaknesses worth it for the late game addition of another heavy bruiser? Or is the value of Leona's stun and Thresh's clutch lanterns priceless regardless of the game time?
A, what you just said, but B, the thing you're not taking into consideration is how much longer a support bruiser, so to speak, takes to ramp up and really be effective. There are cases where, like, I mean, in OGN they do it quite a bit. They'll run like support Lee Sin, support Trundle, and that type of thing. But they're doing that for very, very specific reasons, and not just sort of as like a fallback pick to because they can't figure out what else to play. Boom.
Boom. Yeah, you know, when I look at people that are like, I'm going to go ahead and play Malphite support, because when I get 6, Malphite has an engage, and, you know, I can use that throughout the game. Well, you forget that Malphite, when he's in the top lane, regardless of the gold, is getting more experience and more levels. And the more levels he gets, once he gets to level 11, it's like a 80-second cooldown or 70-second cooldown. It's pretty short. And once you get higher, it becomes like 60 or a little lower. I screwed up my numbers there. But it's so short that once you use it at level 16, it's up by the time you get back to the next team fight. And you have to remember, when you're playing support, you're going to be stuck at level 12 to 14 for quite a bit longer than the rest of your team.
That's a great point. You are routinely going to be behind in levels pretty much like once bot lane kind of starts to hit level 7, or definitely if that first tower goes down. Like, when laning phase ends, that's when you start to really fall behind in levels. And if you're doing the things that you're supposed to do, and that is warding in places other than just bot lane, you are losing out on experience. That's just the reality of the role. And you are going to start falling behind, and someone like Malphite really needs those levels and needs items to do that. And if you're like not getting your big items until everyone else is 18 and you're only like 14, 15, you know, like that really does make a big difference. You might think you're being effective just because you have that big initiating ult. You are doing nothing afterward. You are doing nothing for your team.
It goes with the same talk with Shyvana and Avarice Blade. You may think you're doing well in lane, but then once you get to playing better players and learning how they play, you're not doing as well as you think you were doing.
I was gonna say I could see this actually working much better at lower elos, just because, like, sure, you picked like a Lee Sin or a LeBlanc for support, and yeah, you might be able to pull off some cheese and like be super aggro early and get kills off and snowball the shit out of your lane. But I still say that only works like 2 out of every 10 games, and you're gonna run into people that just aren't afraid of your bullshit in lane and are are going to make you really pay for it. And you're not just going to be useless for the early part of the game, but if you get behind and you make a pick like that, you're useless the whole damn time.
Right.
The other issue with a lot of these bruisers or even unconventional champs played in the support role is resource management. To do your job properly, in most cases, you should be trying to zone and sort of harass with your abilities. And, you know, I might be wrong, but I've never been under the impression Malphite had stellar mana regeneration or anything like that.
He's kind of awful.
You know, that's been my experience playing him. And granted, there are exceptions. You know, Leona doesn't do a lot of harassment, but she just decides to jump on and murder somebody.
And
so that's the same thing.
So the point I was going to bring up is Thresh and Leona, for example, if we're going to use those two, is that they gain scaling armor throughout the game. And for Leona, she gains scaling magic resist. As Thresh picks up more souls and spends more time in lane, he's gaining more armor. And he's becoming naturally tankier without having to buy items, unlike a Malphite, where you have to buy an item to get a larger shield. Now, if we're looking at somebody like LeBlanc, that's going back to Sean's point, this is going to work great. I would say anything under gold 1. Even gold 1, it can work out pretty well. But
I've done it. I mean, right around there.
It's a surprise pick. It can work great. I mean, that's how Annie got started. Granted, you know, she did have a lot of damage, and she did have the surprise stun, but she worked so well because she was such a surprise and unique pick. LeBlanc is like one of those where I can see it working if you can work well with your AD carry, but you're not going to carry out of the bottom lane by yourself unless you are just like LeBlanc master.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, even if you get ahead like that, you're still not going to have nearly as much gold as you would being like a mid laner or anywhere else. So like, grats,
because you still have to ward.
You did great early. You got the warding items. Cool. You got your Deathfire graphs, whatever.
To her credit, she is going to roam better than pretty much any support.
Right.
She does have that going
you still
for
have
her,
to think her mana pool also sucks.
Her
Right.
damage
For a long
early is
time.
pretty poor, too.
I would
Yeah.
assume you are going to run a different set of runes as support LeBlanc than you would if you were running mid lane LeBlanc. I don't play LeBlanc. I've literally only played one LeBlanc game, so I honestly can't tell you. But that would be my assumption: is if you're playing support LeBlanc, you are going to run. I mean, just run a different set of runes and masteries than the other I would to compensate for those deficiencies you normally wouldn't have to address.
Right.
Yeah, I think to answer this question, we're pretty much, no matter what champion you choose, the traditional support champions, even when they're behind in level and gold, are useful to your team because of their utility.
Yes.
These other support picks, they might be able to catch up a little bit in gold, but they're still going to be way behind where they would have been in a more priority role.
It'll work every once in a
it's
while,
gonna
but
be
you
it's
shouldn't
gonna be
count
more
on
meh.
it.
Yeah, I mean, like an expert, whatever champion player is going to be able to play that champion in effectively enough in the support role to make it work. But that doesn't make it a. I mean, like, that's the exception to the rule and everything. You know, you're trying to read into a small sample and apply that to the broad player base, and it just doesn't work like that.
So that's why it cracks me up. People pick support Lux, for example, because we were talking about what your items you're building and how much damage you do. Have you ever been hit by support Lux's ultimate? And
It
just kind of
doesn't
like,
hit that
"Ooh,
hard."
that tickles.
Yeah.
Oh, why'd you hit me with that? Oh.
Unless,
Go ahead.
Unless she gets like ahead early and fucks you up. Now
We're
I
talking
guess
like
you could,
2 or 3 kills.
You could
ahead
build
early.
spell thieves now. Maybe be able to do something different.
Yeah,
but-
no, this is the support. The support.
Unless you're Mad Life and you decide to play it in the All-Star.
The
versus Masters
heavy
game.
utility support mages are definitely becoming more favorable, such as Karma and Zyra, but they bring a lot of utility throughout their entire kit to the team.
Right.
It's not just 2 abilities with like.
They can set up a wombo like Annie or Zero. So
Well, Zyra being Zyra having one of the best anti-dives in the game, as well as a slow with her plants and a root and everything else. And Dom is still sitting over here like, I wish I could play this champion.
I wish I could. I can't. I'm bad at her.
build 3
Like
Athenes.
backing up to Lux, I actually did play some support Lux in Season 2. Not seriously in many cases, but itemization was in a better spot for support Lux then than it is right now. In my opinion. Like, just like the way you were able to get meaningful items on her on a relatively low income, and they've reworked things enough that you can't like be as high impact with her anymore. That's been my kind of opinion on it, at least.
Well, there we go. I think we beat that question in the ground. So let's move on to Malcolm's question then. I've recently moved from mid to jungle in my ranked team because I'm the best shot caller of the group. While already having a good understanding of where and when to be, I don't have a good understanding of counter picking against junglers and champ select. Can you share some insight and give some examples?
No.
Counter picking against junglers, like
Yes.
to counter jungle the other jungler, or to better. Let's clarify this question. Let's try to think of the angles that he's asking. If it's you're worried about being counter jungled, then pick a good duelist. Don't pick Sejuani, for example. That hurts.
Yeah, I almost,
really did.
I almost think he is just overthinking his champion pick and champs like worrying way too much about that specific jungle matchup and not enough on the effect he's able to have with his team.
You could
For his
definitely
team.
counter pick junglers with another jungler, but you're doing it with the intent of counter jungling.
Counter jungling, right?
Right. That's
And
like
then if you fail.
if somebody's gonna pick a Moo, you can pick like Udyr or Lee Sin and just go fuck their world up if their team's not reacting when you go into
Udyr's
fight.
a really good pick against that.
But if the team
Yes.
is reacting, you wasted your time. They run you out of the jungle. You didn't really counter them.
Unfortunately, that is just a
No.
risk you have to take if you want to do that.
Yeah,
You can never count on that.
if that's the case, like if you're worried about them picking a duelist or somebody who can come in on you, just pick somebody who is also a strong duelist, and just make sure your team knows, or like even trinket up your jungle. Like I like to personally trinket on the other side of the red bush before I do red, just so I can see anybody trying to come in for some shenanigans. But unless Dom's in the game, and then he takes care of that shit for me.
Once.
He does.
Right, once.
Which
But
is all you need.
yeah, it's after that you're good.
And I pink
But,
ward the other spot thereafter.
It's just, I mean, if you think they're gonna come in and try to counter jungle you could always pick somebody like a really quick clear jungler, and try to make it so like you try to just
them to it.
completely take your jungle out, and they try to come over and there's nothing there to be taken.
Right.
Well, see, I think let's do some examples here. Someone picks Fiddlesticks. You could pick Udyr into them.
Yeah.
Typically said. And you just rape their jungle and force them to start ganking or try to counter jungle. Because Fiddlesticks, for example, is very dependent on getting to level 6 before he can do very
And starting
much.
blue.
And if you
starting
pick
blue.
somebody like Udyr, you can waltz into their jungle, and what's he gonna do? Start life stealing you as you bear stance, stun him right
Yeah,
into
right?
it, and then tiger his face off. If you hit him with 3 tiger stances, I guarantee he dies.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And this is talking strictly for solo queue, of course. Somebody picks Fiddlesticks. You could do Nocturne into Fiddlesticks because you stop the fear or you stop the silence.
But if you catch Fiddle catches you with a Terrify, and the team reacts quickly wherever you are, and he kites you around in the jungle, you're wasting time. You got to try to beat feet out of there, or you just get double or triple
I just
teamed
think it was
depending
funny
on
you
which side of
said
the jungle
kiting
you're on.
and Fiddlesticks because I've never
Now-
put those two words together with.
Since
Put
he
those
does
two-
he does bring
Especially
up
if you didn't
that
get your red buff yet.
he's moved from mid to jungle, so I'm thinking this is more for like ranked 5s kind of play. If that's the case, and you're super worried about somebody counter jungling you, you just need to if they're gonna counter jungle you, start warding up your jungle, and just make sure your team knows that if there's somebody in your jungle, they need to react. The thing is, like, counter jungling is only really effective if your team doesn't react and they can get an edge early and then beat you out from
if
there
their
on.
team doesn't react.
Yeah. Well, no. Like, if they are counter jungling you,
Oh.
it's only effective if they can get like an early edge and your team doesn't react. If your team can react, you can go in and pick up free kills and really put them behind. That being said, if you're trying to counter jungle, it's the same exact thing. If their team reacts, it's all dependent on how they play. It's dependent on the way that your
I hate
laners.
I hate these kind of answers
I
so
know,
much.
but that's what it is. Like, if you have a mid laner that can really shove out, like,
Well, no, let's give him. Like, I think the good answer comes from Claude here in the beginning. Is figure out what does your team need and what is your team going to do, and then start talking to your team and say, I am picking this champion specifically to do this. So we need to either work around my jungle pick, or I'm going to pick somebody who could get counter jungled, but our objective now is to take dragons, and our objective now is to gank and move it into this. You have to figure out what your objectives are at a certain point in the games and talk to your team about it in this scenario.
Dom
and
mentioned that.
your
Yeah.
your team also needs to know when you're weak and when you're strong. That's
Right.
that's another big piece of that.
Exactly. Be aware of that. Like, for example, the Sejuani pick. She's a little She's not a duelist, so if you get her 1v1, she either has to queue over a wall or get out of there, beat feet. You can take her jungle free. So make sure if you have that Sejuani jungler, your mid, top, or bottom lane, depending on where you are available. And like Sean was saying before, ward over that bush and by red to make sure you're safe and try to clear it as fast as humanly possible.
And
then as long as your team's on the same page.
Because he mentions that it's specifically a ranked team and everything, your team really should be helping you. Mm-hmm. They should be trying to do what they can to help make sure you're at the very least safe in your own jungle. And whether it's your ward or a ward that your teammates place to really help you out and everything, if you catch the enemy jungler in there, you should be fucking collapsing on them. Mm-hmm. Punish them for getting too big for their britches.
Trust me, it's hard. As a top laner, it's really hard to get out of that. I should be leaving lane to help you out right now. I'm only level 2, and I'm giving up 3 waves of CS, or 2 waves of CS. It's really hard to break that mentality, but your top lane and your mid laner need to realize that getting that kill is more important, and it's going to snowball the game harder than you getting that XP.
It's not even getting the kill. It's making them afraid to come into your jungle and keeping your jungler relevant and not, pushed back. Your jungler cannot help you unless he's safe and you helped him. That's the best PSI I can give. If you want help from your jungler, you need to fucking be able to drop anything at any time to go help him, because if he can't do anything all game and he's super behind in levels, you're never going to see any help from your jungler at all.
And true. And if you're responding to your own jungle side, you're not really, as top lane, as you mentioned, Adam, you're not missing as much as if you were responding to the enemies, because your lane opponent went to respond to go get your jungler who's counter jungling. You're like, oh crap, I got to go and help him out now, and you're gonna miss out on more because you're gonna get there later.
I was just gonna say, bot laners, if you catch the enemy jungler in your jungler's territory and everything, just do your best to use Fog of War to get out of there, so that the opponent bot laner kind of lingers thinking that you're still around. Because that gives you a bit of an element of surprise. They might not call you missing right away. They might call you missing, but they might not respond to it. And that gives you some advantage when you go to try to confront this fucker who got in where he shouldn't have been.
You tell him, Dom.
Speaking from first-hand experience, I can tell.
Yep.
A lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people just really telegraph what they're going to do and try and book it out of there. And sometimes you run through a ward, and there's nothing you can do. Hopefully you know where they've warded, but, people play
the fear of them there is actually an advantage. I do that with the new sweeper ward on my jungler. I'll clear the ward out of the lane bush and then just run right back to wolves or something, and then the enemy who was pushing my bot lane against their tower, all of a sudden, whoa, they backed off and gave him some breathing room, and I'm still farming.
Yeah,
I'm not
it works
there
the
anymore.
same way.
So
I would say a good example of that would be you could even keep if the jungler was say you're on blue side and they're trying to kill your jungler near his wraiths and they're chasing him towards the area between the turrets. If your support and your mid laner both split off and you're going to be able to get the kill, the AD carry doesn't even need to split off and he can keep farming too. There's a lot of little things. 3 people are going to usually be able to take out one, especially if the other team. Yeah, especially if the other team's not paying attention and you're not losing anything for it.
It's a good point. He's going to be wandering anyway.
Yep.
Right.
Plus, if your AD carry stays there, they might very well think the support's in the bush or something.
So I guess to answer this question, make sure your team's on board with you, and don't worry too much about the pick for the team.
It's a communication
15 minutes later.
In true Trinity Force fashion, we answer your question, but we take 20 minutes to get to it.
Yep. Thank you, though, Malcolm. That was a good question.
Yes. Instead of answering another question, I'm going to actually round out this podcast right now with some more news, because I want to make sure people know what is coming on and other things. Guys, don't forget to go check us out on Audible, audibletrial.com/TForce podcast. We do really need your help. We do have the 4th member of the Trinity Force podcast, or excuse me, the T-Force LCS Rundown, who is part of the Trinity Force podcast
the
family.
Member of the family.
Yep.
There you go.
The baby.
Yes, we are funding him a new microphone.
Cigars?
I don't know. He drinks beer.
No, should we smoke cigars because we have a new member of the family here
Yes, we should.
to celebrate?
You dropped the ball on that. You should have bought cigars for everybody. Then get
should've.
him a
Come
We're out of money. I just spent all our money on buttons. This is why I'm asking people to support us.
cigars, buttons, new equipment.
Viewers,
Beer.
fans, Dominic.
All right, that's
I didn't even see your hand on that one.
You didn't want to.
That's because it was so low.
Fanfic.
Please do not ever write Trinity Force fanfic. For the love of God, do not write Trinity Force fanfic.
You just invoked Rule
Snaggles on it.
34 of the internet.
Yes, you did. DeClaude invoked Rule 34.
I think you did it. I think you did it by asking for it.
Can I
to
call
not
this
happen.
podcast Rule 34? Because that's going to get some people's attention.
No, you can do better than that.
Invoke it.
I'm going to invoke it. So I'm going to call the podcast. Invoke to be boarded. I don't know. I'll come up with something good.
Get out. Oh my God, you just really want to
Get
say
out.
prepare to be boarded all the time. Like that's all you want.
Yeah.
Next time you have sex, prepare to be boarded. Like just out of
You
nowhere.
act like I didn't yell that on Saturday night.
Why am I not surprised by any of this?
It was about Dom. This is like Dom's that dad that just heard his little
it's
daughter
not-
is pregnant. And he's like, oh.
No, it's not that. I'm just like, okay. Yeah, we came back around to it.
Seriously, how many times can we talk about this topic in the
Well-
same show?
Bro, we've done worse.
Fair enough.
Guys, PAX East, please, if you're going to be out there, let us know. Send us emails if you're going to be out there because we want to know who you are and where you're going to be and what your plans are for the weekend because we definitely want to meet Mont Nagorum and the Victorious Gaming guys. Guys, they're going to be podcasting. So there's going to be a sign out there. I don't know what exactly they're going to be at. When I find out, I'll be tweeting about it and sending as much messages as I can to anybody about this. They're going to have a sign out there that says Trinity Force Podcast. It's going to say Victorious Gaming, and it's going to have, the URL and everything on it, but you guys will be able to find them and watch them podcast and even talk to them while they do it. And you guys, that'll be like a supplement podcast that won't take up any of these slots. You'll have like 3 podcasts in 1 week. I know how excited you all are for that.
I'm excited.
I know, me too.
Me too.
Other than that, like I said, audibletrial.com/TForce podcast. And if you guys would really like to help us out, please do donate to the podcast. We do need to fund a couple more microphones for the staff. We're going to put our own money into this, but anything you guys can give back, we would very much appreciate. So, other than that, guys, this has been episode number 148 of the Trinity Force podcast.